I will say this, that things have changed since theaters have really opened back up when this movie came out. Things have changed. That's right, the people have gotten worse. It's a quiet place movie. Don't talk! Hey everybody, what's going on? Today we are going to talk about A Quiet Place Part 2, which takes place right after the events of Part 1. What you have is the Abbott family have to leave the quote unquote safety of their farm. So they pack up the kids, what little food they can carry between the three of them, and pack up the baby, and they have to move on. They have to go past their sand path. They end up eventually running into someone that they know or knew back before this all happened, and then that's where the adventure continues. Okay, I was a big fan of the first Quiet Place movie, as a lot of people were. Sure, you could nitpick the crap out of that movie. I mean, I know there's some reviewers out there that were like, but what about this and what about that? If this happened, wouldn't the creatures go to this? Yada, yada, yada. I get that. Okay, why didn't they just build their house right next to the water? Just things like that, right? You have to kind of just forget that stuff to enjoy these movies. And this one, I have to say, if you don't want anything spoiled, this one I thought it was a perfect natural progression of the story that was being told, and I think there's actually still more to tell. Maybe at least one more movie. I would say probably one more could probably do it. Maybe two. It just depends on how much you can stretch what's left. So, if you don't want to know anything, if you love the first one, you're going to really like this one too. It's got a lot of what made the first one really good. It's got the heart. It's got the creatures. You still like the family a lot. You still want to see them win. You also get to see. Uh, what happened on day one, as well. So you get to kind of see where the creatures came from, or at least somewhat where they came from. And you're also introduced to one new character, which is Cillian Murphy's character. And you see that he was a friend of John Krasinski's character from the first one. And he's actually in this for a little bit, because at the beginning of the movie they show you day one and show you when the creatures came, but you get to see Krasinski and Murphy. They're talking to each other at Krasinski's character's son's baseball game. So you see that they had a relationship. So that's where the story goes. Okay, the family has to go out beyond. They take the radio with them that does the frequency that can make the creatures freak out and you can kill them. So it's hard to really talk about this movie without spoiling something. So there's going to be some minor spoilers here. They run into Cillian Murphy's character, where we find out that he wasn't so far away from them this whole time. They're on day 400 and something now. So they run into him when they set off one of his, or a couple of his traps. We'll just say they set him off. We'll just say that. And it leads to a creature going after him, but he watches them kill it. And he's just like, I've never believe I've seen one of these dead before. He tries to act like he doesn't know them. He's got his face covered, and he's kind of just like, you can stay the night and then you got to leave. But then they figure out who he is. This whole thing ends up, I mean, granted, Emily Blunt's character is still important to the story, but the story honestly ends up becoming the daughters and Cillian Murphy's characters movie, because and this is where a spoiler comes in. They end up discovering that this radio signal, which keeps playing a song, is not just playing the song over and over again. It's code, or at least they think it is. It's code, and they want to check it out. Plus, Reagan, the daughter, she wants to. She gets the idea. She's like, you know what? What if I broadcast the sound that hurts the creatures, and then everyone around us can fight them, right? If we're broadcasting it over this radio signal, we can fight them. So she tells her brother that she's going, and she goes off on her own. Emily Blunt's character, the mom, says to Emmett, Cillian Murphy's character, please go save my daughter. So the whole thing kind of splits off into three, because the son, Marcus, he ends up having to take care of the baby, and because Emily Blunt's character needs to go get medicine and stuff, and then Cillian Murphy's character has to go after the daughter, Reagan. So it kind of splits off into three different stories. The main one being the Emmett and Reagan story, because at first he's just supposed to bring her back, but she actually convinces him that what if we go back, there's nothing to go back to. What he's like, you need to come. I need to take you home, and she's just like, there won't be a home if we don't do this. So he agrees to go with her, and they go off on their adventure. I will say this, and I don't want to really talk much more about the plots of the different characters, because that'll give away too much. But I dug the Emmett and Reagan story. It kind of reminded me of The Last of Us. So, you've got the younger female protagonist and the older male protagonist going on an adventure together to solve a problem, right? Which is technically for both a cure to the problem. So, I really dug that part of the story, because both of them, and really honestly all the characters, especially the son, the daughter, and Emmett, their characters all have to either find something within themselves that they lost, or find something within themselves that they didn't know was there. I mean, Emily Blunt's character, you really saw her development in the first movie of her stepping up, especially since her husband was gone. She had to. But she steps up and fights. But now you have the son is dealing with, honestly, in some ways, just being kind of a coward. But he has to step up, and especially since he's watching his the baby, right? So then you have Emily Blunt's character again. She goes off on her own, but you have Reagan having to basically. She's honestly the one that they really focus on the most, because she becomes like pretty much the hero of this movie, because she gets the idea of what to do, and she's not going to let anything stop her, because she wants a home to go back to. And then Emmett, he has lost all hope for life, and because everything was taken from him in one way or another, and he has to find hope within humanity. And then speaking of humanity, and that's like another thing that they only touch on a little bit in this, and it's really, if there's any fault I would give this movie, it's that they tease about, and you've seen it probably in the trailer too, where Cillian Murphy's character goes, there's no one out there worth saving. The people that are out there aren't worth saving. It's because, and it kind of feels in some ways like The Walking Dead, where humanity has to, there's no hope out there, so those that are still out there are gonna just take what's theirs, right? They're not gonna, they've kind of just lost their humanity and are just gonna, set traps and, take from whoever they can take from. And so there's that element out there, and really they only focus on it once, of the bad societies, and I kind of wish they might have done maybe one more instance of it. But I did like what they did with the one time. They also focus on other people too, but again, I don't want to spoil too much. But yeah, I would have liked them to have focused a little bit more on the not so good side of what's left of the world, or at least in that area, because again, we don't know how much of the planet is taken over by these things, and that's really where this movie leaves you off. Is while one problem may or may not get solved, there's still a whole nother problem of these creatures, and plus then of course there's humanity as well. What's left of humanity? What would happen if they beat these things totally? So I still do think there's maybe at least one more avenue or two more avenues to explore when it comes to this franchise. But really, again, this movie does a lot of what you loved about the first one. It definitely advances the character storyline. I mean, the baby is kind of just a fetch quest, but and I gotta say this: why would they have not have fixed that nail? Granted, nobody steps on it this time, but man, it's still there, and it still makes you hurt when you see it. But yeah, there's still a lot to go with this story, I think, and I loved what they did with the Emmett and Reagan characters. The way it ended, it was I wouldn't say it was open ended, but it would have been nice to have more of a definitive ending. But then again, they may handle that. And another one, I have a feeling, especially since this one is doing very well at the box office, that I think they're probably at least going to make one more. I could see them making two. Who knows? Maybe they'll make three. The gimmick of the creatures that might get old, especially if, since they have the weakness or whatever, and they've had it since the end of the first movie. But I could see it would be weird or neat to see, will the creatures adapt, right? Could they adapt? Or is there other creatures out there? The creatures are still creepy and still cool. I still like them. Just watching them move and everything. That opening scene alone was pretty crazy. It's the scene where you've seen the bus, them going in reverse and the bus is coming towards them. That whole thing from day one was really neat to see. But I would love to see if the creatures could adapt. How are they going to deal with the world? Things like that. And they may not make another one. Who knows? But it would be cool to see them make another one, because I like these characters and I want to see more about them. So yeah, I enjoyed this movie. I liked it just about as much as the first one. I thought it was a perfect sequel to the first movie. Again, yes, you can nitpick things in this one like you can nitpick things in the first one. Sometimes things don't have to make 1,000 perfect % for you to enjoy a movie. This one is just a fun thriller, the way that the first one was a fun thriller, and I highly recommend it. That's going to be all for this review. See you later.